The ancient Americans are here today being falsely called African Americans, Negroes, all the same as you go on and on and on. Again, the society does not talk about the ancient Americans or the descendants of the ancient Americans. You know, like I said, when I had the clown call in last time and start telling me about how the so-called Mexicans and the Asians, the Asians, the East Indian, Caucasian, the Asians, you know, the ones that mix with Mongoloid and East Indian, how he tried to pass them off as Mesoamericans and the ancient Americans was laughable and ridiculous. I told you it's a lot of black people here in this society, and you're going to find a lot of them your Pan-Africanists. Because if you notice, the guy that called him before, he was pushing the whole African thing. He wasn't even going to be, he wasn't even going to be impartial. He wasn't going to be impartial to the reality, you know, that I was trying to convey to him of images. Because, see, pictures say 1,000 words. And people admit that the oldest evidence of people who existed here or lived here in this country before anybody was so-called black people. Now, are they going to say that? Of course not. Of course not. Because then it doesn't go along with the slave ship narrative. And I told you before, a lot of people are heavily invested in the slave ship narrative. A lot of people are heavily invested in the lie that our people came over here on cargo slave ships for some part of Africa. Like I said, but the reality is stranger and more bizarre and more barbaric than the actual bringing of people over on cargo slave ships. Like I said, you see, they try to make it seem like, you know, oh, you know, it's not as bad because you brought people over here into this country, right? People who were not skilled people who were not advanced people who were simple-minded, you know, dumb and tribal and whatever. And you force them to work and you force some kind of civilization on them. And like I said, you got a lot of so-called black people who will go with this lie because obviously they're getting something from this. Don't be surprised when I'm doing these Mesoamerican broadcasts. You're going to get a lot of Boule coons, a lot of Boule Pan-African coons that are going to come in here and call in here, especially as the Mesoamerican community starts to grow. Because I told you, I started the Mesoamerican community as an outreach to the bronze people out here who, you know, have to transition their way into Mentellect. That's why I started it. And like I said, we're getting strong transitioning of people coming in. Like I said, before you can even join the Republic of Mentellect, you must join the Mesoamerican community. You must get in on the ground floor. You must get in on the ground floor. The Mesoamerican, the International Mesoamerican Community, or you go online, themesoamericancommunity.com, and you go and register for membership. That was to make us a whole people, a community, a community of Americans, really, Mesoamericans. We use it, but like I said, ultimately, we are the only Americans here. And by right, like I said last week, we're the only ones that got the right to call ourselves Americans, nobody else. No one else here has the right to call themselves American. Why? Because the word America comes from our people, number one, and number two, our people, they're the oldest people here in this continent of North, South, Central, and all of the Americas. Our people are the oldest people here. Nobody else was here before us. Like I said, this is why they do not want to deal with the ancient Americans. You cannot go in any history classes and they will not tell you about the people that lived here before the so-called American Indians. As far back as they'll tell you is American Indians. So already history has been whitewashed. You see, already American history has been whitewashed. If they're not going to teach you about the ancient Americans, the people that were here before the so-called American Indians, which again, they don't give you, and if you notice, they don't give you no backstory on the American Indians. They don't tell you where these people came from. Why don't they ever tell you where these people came from? You know why they don't say that? You know why they want to act like these people started here in this society? You know, and why they try to act like these people are really people, native people to this land? Because see, once you start tracing back how far these people go, Once you start tracing back these people, you'll find that they are connected to those who crossed the Bering Straits, the Mongoloids that crossed the Bering Straits. And then when you look further into their heritage and their history, I'm talking about the so-called American Indian. When you look further into their heritage and their history, you know, if you go back to before they crossed the Bering Straits, you'll see that none of these things, none of these customs and cultures that they picked up when they came over here were in their homeland where they came from, where they migrated from. You know why you won't see that? You know why you won't see the feathers and the so-called teepees and all this other stuff and the different things? Because that's not their culture. That is not their culture. I told you all before, and I told you so-called black people who are discovering your Native American heritage now, knowing that you're Native Americans, I told you to stop referring to yourselves as American Indians. You are not Indians. That is a term that the so-called white man used, you see, for those Mongoloid people in particular. That is not for us. That heritage and culture and tradition that they're using, or that these so-called American Indians are practicing, you know, that is Mesoamerican culture. I'm going to say it again. All that stuff that they're practicing, these Mongoloid Asians, right? Because if you look at them, you can't sit up here and tell me these people don't look Asian. These people are Asians, okay? But yet the Asians don't claim themselves to be the first Americans. The so-called Asians don't claim themselves to be the first Americans. You see, like I said, their whole story unravels if you go back before these people came here. I heard you stupid Israelites start talking about, oh, the so-called Mongoloid Indians before they came over here, they was Israelites and they was in Israel. Get the hell out of here. Y'all lying. Y'all full of crap. There wasn't no goddamn American Indians practicing no Israelite religion or culture or anything. They was not. That's a lie. That is a lie. Y'all just doing that to try and tie them in with you guys. I told you why y'all want to do that. Y'all want to tie the so-called American Indians in with you, but the so-called American Indians are Mongoloids. They're Asians. And according to your Israelite doctrine, so-called Mongoloids, Asians, East Indians are not your people. So how can they be part of your tribe? How can you call these people part of your tribe if they're not, if you're going to say that the Asians and the East Indians are not your people? Because that's what the so-called American Indians are. They're Asians and East Indians. That's what they are. They're not Native Americans. They can't even use the term American. The only Americans are you so-called black people. You are the only Americans. By blood, by language, by culture, you are the only Americans, the ancient Americans, the Mesoamericans. And like I said, today, there's going to come a time where we should be able to claim American only. The only ones who should be able to claim American as a nationality and have an American language is so-called black people, because we are the only Americans here, the only ones, the first. We saw everybody come here. We saw the Mongoloid Asians come over here, the Mongoloid Indians come over here, the Asians come over here first. And they found us here. And they mixed in with us. And they picked up our culture and our heritage. That's when, and they mixed in with our people. And this is when you get the so-called American Indians with these so-called American Indian customs. You see, all those are Mesoamerican, from the feathers in the hair, the arrows and all that. All you got to do is look back at the Mayan culture, look back at the Inca, all that. You'll find all the stuff that the so-called Native American Indians claim is their own. They did nothing but copy from our people. They did nothing but copy all that, all the teepees, all that. Those are nothing but lower level versions of pyramids, the teepees. Those are nothing but low level versions, makeshift versions that they tried to copy. That's from our people, man. They took our heritage and carried it down into modern day. They took our heritage. Meanwhile, the so-called white man telling our people we come from Africa, and if we say that we native to this land, they threaten to kill our people, man, because they were trying to restructure and shift history around, and plus, you know, give us this new title of identity, or this new title of identity as black people, even though our skin is not black. Like I said, we are the ancient Americans here. And like I said, a lot of people have been programmed with the slave story, like I said, so they don't want to accept that reality. They've been programmed with the slave story. They've been lied to in the slave story, in the American slave story about our people. Notice a lot of history, a lot of things have been invested and getting you to believe that the so-called Native Americans are these Mongoloid Indians. You know why they do that? And why they don't tell you about what they were, who they were before they came here? You know why they do that? Because if they do, then you got to ask yourself, you start looking at the so-called culture of the so-called American Indians, the Mongoloid Asian American Indians with the straight hair like the white man. If you start looking into their heritage and history before they came into America, you're going to see that they're just a bunch of Asians and East Indians. You will not see any of the stuff that they supposedly is part of their culture. You won't see it over in Asia or in these other places where they come from. You won't see it. What you will see, and you'll start to see, oh, there were other people here that were here before them that had these pyramid cities and things like that built up. You're going to see it's these other people here, these ancient people, right? Notice how the white man tends to make them a mystery. He'll lie, he'll say everything from, oh, they just disappeared. The civilizations, all these people just disappeared. Either he's going to say they disappeared, they're no more, they disappeared, or he'll say that they're the so-called Native American Indians, which is a lie. He'll sit up here and tell a bold-faced lie because, again, like I said, if he tells the truth, he's got to admit that we had civilizations going here first, and they came in amongst our civilizations. We had civilizations going here. All that Iroquois, how the Iroquois govern and all that comes from Mesoamerica. Everything that the so-called Indians are doing here in this society comes from Mesoamerican, from our people. Like I said, nobody's going to talk about, I want a lot of you to make sure you get, excerpts and pictures, as many pictures as you can of the ancient Americans, our people, bronze people, so-called black people. I want you to make sure you get as many images, any pictures and whatnot. And if you got children, some of you who have children in high school and things like that, make sure you tell your children to go to their white history teacher and ask them, how come we don't know about these people in America? How come we don't know about ancient America? How come we don't know about these people here who are black people, the first people here in America? Ask them why they don't tell you that. Ask them why they don't teach that in history class. Because they're all about concealing the truth. They're all about concealing the truth. They want to keep this idea going that the white man came over here and he was just so intelligent and wise and he just knew what to do and this, that, and the third. Let me tell you something. There was already civilizations here. There were already societies here. There were already working treaties here in this country that were being run by so-called black people. There were already working treaties amongst tribes and things like that. There was already a society here. They want you to think that they came here, the white man came here, and it was just a bunch of savage Indians living off the land and all this other foolishness. That's a bunch of lies. You had, like I said, you had these Mongoloid Indians living off the land, and you had so-called black people farming the land, who've been farming the land since they've been in this land. Before the Indians, before the white man. They went farming this land, fishing on this land, living on this land before everybody. Yet that history is blacked out. It's redacted. It's redacted because the only thing that they want to introduce us in American history as is a bunch of black people that came from Africa on slave ships. That's the only thing that they want to, the so-called narrative they want to tell. They don't care if it's a lie. They know it's a damn lie. They know it's a lie. And when I say they, I'm talking about the American government knows it's a lie. The people who are pushing this American history curriculum in your high schools and things like that, they know it's a lie. Your so-called American Indians, the top American Indians, they know that they're not the native people of this land. In fact, a lot of these people, when you dig down into their roots, a lot of these people call themselves so-called Native Americans. They're not Native American at all. In fact, they just busted this lady who's going around calling herself a Native American and all this. I think her family, come to find out, she's going around pushing this, oh, she's Native American. Come to find out her family's either from I think they from Russia, or people Russian or something like that. I forget what it was. She has a dark complexion, but she's like that East Indian, looks like a dark red. I forget what it was, but she's from someplace in Europe, man. This is what's going on here. People are being allowed to call themselves Native Americans who are not even native to this land. They're not native to this land. They're being allowed to call themselves Native Americans who are not native to this land. Like I said, the only Native Americans is black people, so-called black people. This is Native American land. America is Native American land. It is the land of bronze people, the copper-colored races with the woolly afros and the woolly hair. That's who the natives of this country is. You see, if you're not going to declare yourself Mesoamerican on your birth certificates, like I said, a lot of you need to do that, then just declare yourself American, because you are the only Americans here. Declare yourself Americans. Like I said, go look up, and I keep always telling y'all, it's for real factual proof. Just look up the Merriam-Webster dictionary. I gotta keep saying over and over in these videos, keep looking up the Merriam-Webster definition of what an American is. That tell you everything. That's not them. That's not the so-called Mongoloid Indians they describe it as the copper-colored races. That's not the so-called American Indians. All right. They describing so-called black people. That's who they're describing as the copper-colored races. They're describing so-called black people because, like I said, our skin is copper. Our skin has a copper tone to it. Our skin is not black, but they have to blacken us in order to black us out of history. Black people means people who have been blacked out of history, redacted from history, redacted from the heritage and the first civilization. They want to redact us out of history, so therefore they want to blacken us out. Because again, if we know our heritage, if we know our true history, then again, we're not going to be walking around like a bunch of inferior-minded people who think that white people saved us, helped us in some way, raised us. They ain't raised us no damn way. All they did was promote a false narrative, a lie, to keep us under them, to keep us believing that this is not our country. You actually got these Caucasians who will sit up here and talk about, you niggas need to go back to Africa, knowing that they brought their asses from Europe. You see, knowing a lot of them early Caucasians who came over here were nothing but people who were being let out of prison. They used America, the American colonies, as they say. They used the American colonies as a place to, and especially England, to ship prisoners off out of England. That's what they use America for. So a lot of these Caucasians that came over here into America, they are the descendants of thieves, murderers, all kinds of criminal scum that was in Europe, especially in England. That's a fact. They sent these filthy, degenerate people over here from Europe, these filthy, degenerate Caucasians over here to mix in with our people, to come in amongst our people. This is why when they were put in power and they became slave owners and being given plantations, this is why they were so vicious and they were vicious and nasty people. This is why they were vicious rapists and degenerate, nasty people, because the filth they come from denotes the type of people they are. The filth they come from, the degenerate filth, where they was over there committing crimes, murders, rapes, all kind of stuff. They unleashed this degenerate filth over into this country. They unleashed this degenerate filth, this degenerate white filth over into our country, the country of the copper-colored people, the bronze people, and they had a ball. They went into our country and they took over and put our people in slavery, you see. And you had people who were working with them, just like you still got people today. You still got people that are interested in pushing the false narratives. You still got people who don't want to acknowledge us as the ancient Americans because they don't want to step on no toes. They don't want to get people angry, upset. They don't want to they will rock the boat. I told you your Pan-Africanists are in it for money. They're going to keep the lie going. People like your Alex Haley. You see, Alex Haley was a boule bootlick and Pan-African, fake Pan-African teacher, pusher of his fake roots story. I told you before, why are they not telling you the truth about Alex Haley and his roots story, how he ripped off this Caucasian male named Harold Corlander and how he had to pay this guy out of court in the 70s? Why they don't tell that? Why they want to keep on pushing that this is Alex Haley's roots? Why they want to keep pushing this lie? If these people are willing to lie about something like that, something that's still being promoted as Alex Haley's family roots, something that's still being promoted as real and whatnot, and it's been proven that he plagiarized it. All you got to do is look it up. They're not even trying to hide that. So right now, the beast will sit up here and tell a bold-faced lie, and the truth will be staring you right in your face. You could look right back into history and whatnot. Look back in the 70s and whatnot, and you can see what Harold Corlander, this guy Corlander, sued Alex Haley and won, how he plagiarized from this guy's work for his roots, for his whole root story. Now, if this was Alex Haley's roots, if it was his family, why you got to copy from anybody? Why you have to plagiarize somebody's work if this is your family roots? Even the character of Kunta Kinte came from Harold Corlander's book. That's not even a real person. Look all that up. These people are so hell-bent on promoting us as slaves. They're so hell-bent on promoting a false narrative about our people. And you know what the sad thing is? A lot of our people, they go with it. They go with it to the point where they will fight against the reality, against the truth of who we are. You got a lot of people who are going to still sit up here and argue about being black, and we black, and we from Africa, and y'all need to stop talking about we Mesoamerican. You got a lot of simple-ass Negroes that do that. They're on this Mama Africa nonsense. See? So we have to be smart enough to know who we are and wake up to who we are, the reality of who we are in this day and time. You see? We have to stop thinking that everybody here is telling us the truth, that everybody here is got our best interests at heart. Because I had people come up here and question me about, not too much, but, concerning the Mesoamerican thing, people will question you, and they won't question the so-called white man about the slave theory or the out of Africa theory. They won't question him about the out of Africa theory. They won't question him about the slave narrative, nothing. They won't question him about nothing. But when I come up here, all of a sudden, they want to argue with me. But you believe the so-called white man. You believe him. Here it is. We got pictures of our people in the ancient world, pictures of not just one, not just two, like many, many pictures. That seems like that's the mass majority of pictures you see in the ancient Americans is so-called black people. From the Aztec to the Inca to the Mayan, Toltec, that's all you see is so-called black people. That's all you see as the ones who are representing these people. So who are the real Americans? Who are the ancient Americans? Simply put, our people are. And therefore, we, by proxy, we are the modern-day Americans. If our ancestors were the ancient Americans, then we are the only real Americans here. We are the only modern-day Americans here. So that's why I said we got every right to just call ourselves Americans. The white man has no right to call himself American. He is not an American. The so-called Asian, Mongoloid, American Indians have no right to call themselves American. They are Asians. They come from Asia. They're Asiatic people. We do not come from Africa. We do not come from Africa. Our people are not African. So because we don't come from Africa and our people are not African, we need to stop being told or let people tell us that we are African. We need to stop letting people tell us that garbage. We need to stop letting people tell us that we came over here on some damn slave ship somewhere. We need to stop letting people tell us that lie. We need to stop letting people tell us that we, if it wasn't for the white man bringing us over here from Africa, we would have been sitting around here swinging in trees. We need to stop letting people tell us that lie. See, because they'll push that false narrative. Next thing you know, you up here worshiping the image of the beast. You actually thinking the so-called white man did something for you. When you actually did something for him, you let him come on these shores and you let him eat, you let him live, you let him prosper here. And what has he done in return? They have done nothing but rape, rob, and pillage and steal from you. That's all they did in the name of setting up a government. All they've done is rain hell down on the ancient American children, the descendants of the ancient Americans. All they did was rain down hell on the descendants of the ancient Americans. Like I said, we are the descendants of the ancient Americans. So therefore, we are those ancient Americans. We are the only Americans, the first and only Americans here. We are not African. We're American. And y'all need to wear that American name with pride. I don't care if the white man muddied it up. I don't care if he dirtied it up by putting himself in the front and calling himself a red-blooded American. Like I said, that is false. Because if they can trace their heritage back to someplace else, then how the hell are they going to be American? If you can trace your heritage back to Italy, back to France, back to Germany, back to Scotland, back to Asia, or wherever else you came from, that's who you are. That's who you are by nationality. You're not the original people of that land. The only people that get to call themselves the original people of that land are the people who set up civilizations and societies here first. They are the natives of the land. And that's our people. That is our people who are falsely being called black. That is our people today. We are the descendants of those people, and I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to keep making videos. I know it may get a little redundant, but that's okay. You have to keep this moving. We have to keep this out here because we want all of our people, the intelligent ones of our people, to start representing themselves as Mesoamerican, to come home into the Mesoamerican community so that we could actually have a real community and stop with this fake black community nonsense. Stop with the fake black community nonsense. There's no black community. You see, they don't even understand that they're being told to call themselves black as a way to hide their own history, hide who they really are. They can't even wrap their head around that. But that's okay. We don't need them to. We don't need them to wrap their head around it. And like I said, we do need it to constantly go out. We need this message to go out. We do constantly need this message to go out. We do need to have our voices heard about who the true Americans are, who we are as the Amun race. See, all that has to go out. Our history has to be restored in order for our future to go forward. Our history has to be restored because our history has been destroyed. Our history has been destroyed. There's no getting around that. Like I said, anytime you can get people to believe that millions of people came over on cargo slave ships, right? And the white man keep telling that lie. And then you had this coon, Spike Lee. And I realized when he told that lie, when he said 100 million, the white man locked 100 million of our people into slave ships and brought us over here from Africa. 100 million of us. Come on, man. That's a damn lie. You know how many ships you would have to transport 100,000 people? And you talking about during that time, like I said, I'm not even going to go through the ridiculousness of the so-called African transatlantic slave trade. I'm not even going to go through the ridiculousness of that. You see? I'm not even going to go through the ridiculousness of that. They would rather keep that lie alive rather than just to tell you the truth. That the real people who had civilizations here, the real people who were farming this land, building on this land, having societies on this land, are still here today, and they're falsely being called black people. That's why when a white man came into this country, he tried to make sure that they, the ones that became your elites, your presidents, they made sure they got with the locals. They made sure they got with the locals here. And who were the locals? You so-called black people. You were the locals. Because they needed our people to survive. A lot of times they use the term Indian in the society. Like I said, in the early society, you look back at the early Indians, you see those are bronze, copper-colored people. It's Asians that mixed in with our people. You can see that these are Asians that mixed in with our people. People who have an agenda they're trying to, that they're trying to pass. They have an agenda that they're trying to get off and convey to the people. You see, this is a reality. These people have an agenda. And like I said, the agenda is still the same today. There's no coincidence that these videos are not being shared pretty much on Facebook and things like that. And they're not making the rounds like they're supposed to. That's how bad they don't want this information to get out because, you got other people who are on YouTube saying that we are American Indians and that we are the first Americans here and all this other stuff. And, they're saying this stuff, but they still with the whole Native American, American Indian narrative that we American Indians. I told you. We got to stop trying to, again, with this black Indian nonsense. We got to stop thinking that we are here and that, our job is to take other people's culture and try to usurp them. No, they did that to us. So when you start calling yourself a black Indian, it just comes off as you taking these people's heritage, the so-called Red Indians, the so-called Mongoloid Indians. It just comes off as you taking their heritage and you're trying to usurp their role as the so-called Native Americans when that's not true. They've tried to usurp your place, you so-called black men and black women, as the Native Americans. So, again, you have to be mindful of how the white man writes history and how you have the collaborators that work against you. As you do have open collaborators. You do have open enemies. I'll prove it to you. The minute I said that we the Mesoamericans, how many goddamn Mexicans, so-called Mexicans, Latinxes done come on this page and got in the comment section, been trolling, been saying little slick stuff, and then they got about their business. Why are they doing that? Why do they care if we refer to ourselves as Mesoamerican? They don't. They don't. They only want to start talking about they Mesoamerican when our people start waking up and claiming Mesoamerican. Then you get clowns like John Leguizamo, this lion ass Colombian who's sitting up here talking about he Puerto Rican. He's been lying a long time talking about he Puerto Rican, and when he's not, he is not. But like I said, you get people like this who come out of the woodwork to steal from our culture, and they don't see nothing wrong with that. They come out the woodwork to steal from our culture. They come out of the woodwork to tell people that they're the real Native Americans. You see, this is what they come out the woodwork for. They don't come out the woodwork for nothing else. They want to sit up here and come in here and disrupt things and say that, oh, we lying and we making stuff up, and that, oh, you not the, they'll come in the comment section, and then, like I said, they'll even go so far as to send some coon, some Pan-African boule coon, who wants to come and promote Africa to us instead of the reality of who we are as Mesoamericans. They want to come and promote that to us. They want to come and promote that lie to us. You see. So we have to kill a lie by giving the truth and constantly shouting the truth out and forming a community that basically gives us our heritage and culture back, for lack of a better word, someone that gives it back to whereas, yeah, we know who we are as the American people. We know who we are as nationally as Americans. So we need to start living like that. We need to start acknowledging that true history of who we are. We need to stop letting people take our history, our heritage, and hijack it for themselves. You see. And I told you I hold a lot of these pro-black Pan-Africanists. I said that they're complicit in the lie. I'm going to just say it like this. Your Dr. Benz, your Leonard Jeffries, your Roko Nashidis and all these other Rashidis, or whatever these guys are, and all these guys you look up to, how come they're pointing over across the waters into a whole other continent about our heritage and our greatness when they're not talking about over here? I'm sorry, I got to constantly bring it up for all you guys who keep talking about these guys are such great historians and this, that, and the third. Why are they not, when you see the guy, what's the guy that runs trips over into Egypt? I forget his name right now. But he takes trips to Egypt. Why aren't these people taking our people down into Mexico? Why are they not taking our people down into Mexico and to these places where our ancient civilization, or taking them to Illinois and taking them to different places where the mounds are, the mounds that our people built? Why are they not doing that? Why are they not saying we don't need to go to Egypt? We done built Egypt over here. We done built the ancient pyramids over here as the ancient Mesoamericans. That's who we are. Why are they not teaching that? Why wasn't Dr. Ben, Dr. Jeffries, all these doctors, Dr. Umar, why wasn't all these doctors who got their degrees from the beast, why are they not telling the truth about our true origin? You really think they don't know about the Mesoamerican people? You really think they don't know if those are black people? You really believe they don't know that? Umar, as much as he's learned and scholarly about history and things like that, all these so-called black history people, how come they're not telling you about Mesoamerica? I have never heard them teach about Mesoamerica or the ancient Americans. I have never heard them. The only person I ever heard talk about the Olmecs first time was Ivan Van Sertima. And even he was limited in what he said. You see? But it makes me scratch my head as to why I'm trying to think with this guy, Oswa Kwesi. That's his name, Oswa Kwesi. This guy's always running trips to Egypt I'm like, why don't you take our people to Mexico and show the pyramids that in all those areas and, you know, and the mounds here in the North America. Why don't you take our people on tours like that? Why don't you tell our people about that history? Because the pyramids over here in America are much bigger than the ones in Egypt, more extensive. Why are they not sharing that history with us? Answer, because they're being paid off, man. They're being paid to conceal the truth from our people. Pan-Africanism is nothing but a distraction for our people so that we don't know about our true Mesoamerican heritage. That's all they did. They pushed Pan-African in the place of Mesoamerican. They pushed the Pan-African theory that we should all want to embrace Mama Africa and all that BS when our true heritage and history is here. Because for all you niggas that keep talking about, oh, our heritage is over there in Africa, why you ain't trying to go back? Why you ain't trying to go back if you're so sure about that? Why are you not trying to go and be with your so-called African brothers and sisters in Mama Africa? Why you ain't trying to do that? You know why you ain't trying to do that? Because number one, you don't know how things would be over there if you did go over there. If you did live over there, you don't know if you're gonna be able to ride a system over there, get a job over there, you know, get on some kind of public assistance. They're not dealing with you like that. They're not dealing with you like that. They show you what they think about public assistance and all that other stuff. That ain't important to them. You better have some kind of business or something going out there before you go there, because they're already looking at you like you don't belong. Notice the so-called Africans, they don't embrace our people. That's not by accident. They don't embrace our people because they know we're not their people. They know that we are a whole other species of people, that we are a whole other nationality of people. And it's about time we learn that. It's about time we learn that. Because if we don't learn that lesson, if we miss out on that lesson, now they say we miss out on that blessing. No lesson learned, no blessing received. You see? So we must know who and what we are as a people, what we should know, what we should come to expect as a people in this three-dimensional realm, that our heritage and that our history has been compromised, that they have compromised us, that we've been compromised. And we have to stop acting as though this didn't really happen. We got to stop acting as though when we hear something that is different from the false narrative that we've been told, we need to stop acting like and being speculative about what we're hearing. The next things we hear, and you need to be more speculative about what you've been told. Because if you scrutinize, and again, I don't mind people ask questions about what I'm saying. I don't mind people asking questions. What I do mind is when people come and they're really not sincere about wanting to know. They're really not sincere about what we are, who we are, or trying to find out what we are, who we are. They're not really sincere. They're not. They trying to find ways to debunk things. They trying to find ways to say, like I said, a lot of these people, like I said, that guy who called him before, he gave himself away. He said, I'm African and such and such and such. Okay, so if you African, why are you concerned about what people here in America, so-called black people here in America, find out about their heritage? Why do you care? Why do you care? Why do you care if you claiming you African and you come from Africa, then mind your business? Why do you care what we claim here in America? Why is that your concern? Why do you feel as though you got to speak for us if you so-called African? If you so-called African, then speak for the Africans that you know, the people that come from your homeland and things like that. Speak for those people. Don't speak for us, because we over here in America, man. We over here in America catching hell, going through the things we was going through as black people over here. While you can come over here, a lot of you Africans can come over here and enjoy the fruits of our labor. The fruits of our labor, what we had to go through in this country, so that so-called black people can come from other places and usurp and come into our areas, come into what we are, and try to become us. Because, see, as soon as you come into America, the so-called white man is judging you as black. You see, if you come into this area, you come into America, you being judged as black. You're not being judged as African. You're not being judged as an individual. You're being judged as black. And when they judge you as black, like I said, whatever thing that benefits you or don't benefit you, when it comes from us, like I said, that is how they group you all together and call us one thing. And it's clear we're not just one thing. But what we are here, the one thing we are here in a society, the only real thing we are, national-wise, is we are American, Mesoamerican. We are the Mesoamericans. That's being falsely lied to. We are the first society builders here. We built many societies here in the Americas. Like I said, you got all these mound cities all over the country, places like Illinois, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi. You got all these mound cities all over, and upstate New York. Our people is all over this place, man. But again, they want to hide that history. Our people was all over this place before the white man got here, before the so-called Mongoloid Indian crossed over the Bering Straits. Our people were here. We were the only race of people here. And then when I lost the part I was about to say. But by that time, you know, in history, when our people start knowing the truth about, you know, or they knew the truth, and, you know, our great-grandparents, and they knew the truth about who they were, where they came from, they was the first ones to tell you they wasn't African. They didn't buy into the whole black and African thing. That was something that they, you know, that the so-called white man had to groom our people with later on down the line. They had to groom our people with the whole Pan-African nonsense later on down the line. They already had it in their mind that they were going to take our land. They were going to try and get together. They were going to Voltron together and take hold of this land, state by state by state. You know, they were going to colonize this land state by state. That's why they would go in and set up states and whatnot, and then they would come in and send in their military to clean out and clear out the people. They would establish a, you know, a city in these places, and, you know, a setup of a mayor and all this other stuff, and the governor. Governors basically govern the states for the government. That's what the governor does. A governor governs the state or controls the state for the government that they are a part of. You see, the governors are the highest level of representation in the states around the country. The governor, because he is a member of the governmental body. You see, they came together and they basically decided to take over and take on everything that we had here as a first governmental people. They decided to do that. And because they decided to do that and we allowed them to do that in the society, they've been getting away with it ever since. They've been getting away with it ever since. And like I said, our people have to be more swift in this day and time, because it's important that you teach your children that they are the real Americans and that we have a custom, culture, and tradition that is not from Africa, that is truly our Native American heritage and culture. Don't let these so-called fake history professors and all them teach you some nonsense that all black people got here on slave ships. That's a damn lie. That's a lie. All they did was kidnap black people and take them off their land and just basically put themselves in and throw black people into slavery. That's how the white man started slavery. You see, don't make it seem like it was some intricate, because I hate when they do that. They try to make it seem like the white man was doing some old intricate, high-level thinking in order to, no, he wasn't. He was basically snaking and conniving and lying to people and whatnot just to set up his counterfeit kingdom. He did what he did. You know, he did what he did. But trust me, they know who the real ancient Americans are. They know who you are. The government knows who you are. Your high-level Masons know who our people are. This is why they make sure they keep our people without nothing in the society. They make sure they don't have anything in the society. They keep them without money. They keep them without opportunities and a lot of levels. But see, that's all done purposely. I said, realistically, all you so-called black men here in the Americas who ain't got no criminal record, you should join the police force wherever you are. All you black men should go in massive numbers who ain't got no criminal record and join the police force. That's what you should do. Take hold of and keep protection over our American homeland. We should be the real homeland, American homeland security, so-called black men. You see, in the history of our people and the heritage of our people, a lot is lost. A lot is lost, but yet it's being found out. A lot is lost, but it's being found out. Like I said, it's time for our people to start standing up as the true Americans, the true Mesoamericans, like I told you before. American is just as real as someone who refers to themselves Italian, Irish, German. Like I said, American is a heritage. And the face of America, ancient Americans, the face of real Americans should always be so-called black people. We earned it in so many ways. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. The reason why the white man chose our people to be slaves, right? The reason why they chose our people to be slaves and focused on taking from our people because we had the most to take. The so-called Indians, see, people ask that question, why did white men enslave the so-called Mongoloid Indians and make them slaves? Because they really didn't have anything to offer. They wasn't skilled people. This is how you know. Again, when people take hold of the land, they take hold of the people who are skilled, the people who know how to work that land. Black people, so-called black people, knew how to farm the land. The so-called Indians didn't. Black people knew how to farm the land. Black people knew how to take care of the animals. Black people knew how to build. They knew how to sew. They were skilled people. The so-called black people, the copper-colored people, like so-called black people, were skilled people. We had a long heritage and history of being skilled people. Your so-called Indians were not skilled people. They were not. They always showed them as a people who lived off the land, people who were constantly moving like a tribe or a band of desert people, like, people in the wilderness of North America. Don't they always show you the so-called Native Americans moving around, living off the land, setting up teepees and things like that, always moving from this place to that place? So they never really set up any real, anybody know where they showed you a so-called Indian living in a real house on a real farm or a real, whatever? Have they ever showed you that? No. They always show you Indians camping out in the wilderness. That's what they always show you, so-called American Indians camping out in the wilderness. They've never shown you any Indian farmers. They've never shown you any. So when they talk about farmers and things like that, the only farmers they're talking about, they could be talking about so-called black men. So-called black people knew how to farm the land. That's what made them valuable slaves, not picking some damn cotton. Again, what makes slaves valuable? What makes slaves valuable? Their skills. That's what makes a slave valuable. What's the skill in picking cotton? What kind of skill is that? Anybody can do that. Cotton don't weigh anything. Anybody could pick cotton. Cotton picking didn't make so-called black men and black women valuable. What made them valuable is the fact that they had skills. And skills are something that's handed down from people to people to people, from father to son, the mother to daughter. That skills is handed down. Again, the women were seamstresses. They knew how to make clothes. You see, so all this nonsense about people running around naked here in North America, that's a lie, man. When you see how people when you see the so-called Indians with the leather things sewn together, so you already know as bronze women was making stuff like that. They were seamstresses back then. They knew how to make clothes. They knew how to sew. They knew how to crochet. They knew how to do all that stuff. That was passed down. They knew how to do seamstress work. The men knew how to do carpentry work. They know how to do iron and woodwork. They know how to do all that stuff. Okay? They know how to do that. There wasn't just no damn cotton pickers. You need, in order to run a plantation, in order to run, because that was the financial backbone in this country. The plantations and what they yielded from the land. Because, see, when the white man came here, like I said, in Europe, they wanted to basically have the Caucasians basically run and oversee the farm system and send out things like cotton, certain things that they could import from America out into other continents and other countries. So this is what they did. So they let the white man basically become wealthy, become rich by basically working the natives who were here, who were running the land in the first place, and that was you so-called black people. That's why they put you in slavery. That's why they took your land, because our people living on that land. You're going to be surprised to find out a lot of those plantations that the white man ended up getting, they was originally in the hands of black people. A lot of that land before the white man, and he forced them to build a plantation and build their own slave quarters. They captured these people, captured these tribes, and put them in slavery. You see? So when they show you, them running down black people and putting them in slavery, yeah, that happened here in America. Where they show you them running up on black people, and basically with groups of white people with guns and whatnot, they came and they basically let them have a free fall. Take whatever you find. They would say stuff like, go out here and pioneer the land. You know what that meant when it meant pioneer the land? Where they talk about these American Caucasian pioneers, these what do they call them? Them people that pioneered, and them people that come into different areas. What do you think they meant by that? Homesteading. When they use terms like homesteading, pioneer, you already know what that means. That means they was going out here and finding blacks who were living on land, farming and doing stuff, and just basically taking their shit, taking them by force, putting guns on them, threatening to kill a few of the men. Next thing you know, got the women making them taking women bed wenches, raping the women, killing the men. That's how slavery got started in America. Stop with this, we brought black people from Africa. That's a goddamn lie. They said, why bring niggas from Africa when we could just take these niggas that's already here, who know how to speak language, who are civilized, who know how to work and do stuff, and got all kinds of skill. We just gonna go in, kill the men, and the ones who don't want to listen, we're gonna just take the land. We're gonna set up our government. That's how they did it. They came in and just took our shit. That's it. And then they throw us in slavery. They took all the tribes, they would say the copper-colored tribes, the so-called black people that was here, and they just threw them in slavery. That's how they did it. They didn't care about the so-called American Indians, because the American Indians couldn't do anything. They were not valuable. They were not valuable. So what did the white man do? He decided to use them to help him, because he didn't like them either, but he was like, well, if the so-called blacks, if they side with if the so-called Mongoloid Indians side with the blacks, then we're not going to be able to keep hold of this land. So that's why they had to keep bringing Caucasians over here. They let them come over here from all over Europe and whatnot, so they could basically give them the land to work. They would give them the land, give them slaves and things like that, allot them certain things, so and basically they was kicking black people off their land, taking their land. You see, they would think nothing of that. They'll think nothing about kicking you out of your property, kicking you up here and taking over your land. They'll think nothing of that. You see, and they got their system up and working. They built their government up, and like I said, that's how they did that. They let these Caucasians come in here. Like the next thing you know, they let them govern certain states within the Union, because the Union was based on a bunch of states that were governed by selected governors, by a selected body of people. That's how they did it. They structured it up, put the governors of each state would be the governmental representative of their state. You see, that's how they structured it. And all that was built off of theft. That was built off of theft of taking the native people's land. They don't call it that. They call it all kinds of bullshit like homesteading and we homesteaded the land. We pioneered the land. No, you took land from black people. You took land from the people who was here, which was so-called black people, the people who are the descendants of the ancient Americans. That's what you did. That's how slavery got started. So again, miss me with the whole African American nonsense, the whatever. See, because you know why? Again, you know why they want to push that whole thing of black people being brought over here slavery? Because, see, they don't want you to believe that there was people here that were living their lives and that they actually had their lives uprooted. They want you to believe that you came from some place where you wasn't doing shit anyway, but jumping up and down and booga booga and all this other nonsense. That's what they want you to believe. Oh, well, see, you wasn't doing nothing in Africa, so why not let the white man bring you here? No, man, that's a lie. Because, again, what value are you if you could just pick cotton? What value are you? You can get a little child to pick cotton. you're not of any value to pick cotton. Again, our people were skilled laborers. They had land. They didn't have guns. They was not united, and the white man took advantage of that. That our people did not have guns, and that we didn't stand together, and that we were not united. He took advantage of that. That's how slavery got started. That's how the white man became the Americans and took our name, our heritage. You see, we was even using that term American amongst certain tribes. See, the white man, all he did was took that name and usurped us, and basically took our people into captivity. That's what happened with the real Native Americans. The Native Americans, the real Native Americans, the real ancient Americans, the so-called black people were falsely being called African American, were taken into captivity. They had their land taken from them in this country. They had their land taken. As a matter of fact, like I told you before, Jim Brown said it. He said he remembered his great grandmother. I'm telling them, when white men used to come around and said, well, their people been living on that land for damn near forever, since they couldn't even remember. They've been living in America, living down south, and knowing how groups of white men was coming up with guns and stuff like that, talking about, you gonna work for us, this our land now, you are slaves. They was doing shit just like that. Just basically deboing the land. That's all. You see, that's all they did. And certain people went for it, certain people didn't. But like I said, they always got together and committed their crimes. That's why they are all complacent in this crime that has been taking place, this ongoing crime, because they want to act like our people had no history. We didn't live before. They want to keep covering up that crime. That's like if somebody came here into America today and decide, oh, ain't no more American government. This is going to be something else. We taking over all this shit. We don't care about who's in charge. But the hell with the president, the hell with the Congress, the hell with the army, the military, whoever backed them up. We're going to take all you people's land, and all this whole area is going to be ours. It's going to be no more governors. We're going to restructure this whole thing. You know, that would be devastating. That would be devastating. Now, like I said, our people wasn't on the level of like they have with their government today, where it would be highly unlikely and hard for that to happen as far as that takeover, but our people still had the land. They still were the people here first. But this, like I said, the so-called white man don't care about who was first or who was last. All he cares about is, can he take the stuff? Can he steal the land for himself? Can he steal the land? Can he take the people into hostage and make them work the land? Because again, if it had not been for the slaves working the land, making the food grow, because again, they wasn't only just picking no damn cotton. They was growing and picking the foods and everything else that was going to be sold to market. They were working the animals because they knew how to work the animals. The white man didn't know how to work no animals. They knew how to work the horses, because the horses, our people been working the horses. We've been breaking the horses and whatnot, because the horses used to run wild all over North America. So our people were breaking the horses, and they were riding the horses and whatnot without saddles. They taught the white man how to ride horses. They didn't know how to ride no damn horses. You had to know how to break the horse. Because I said a lot of our people, seeing that was to their own detriment. They showed the white man, they showed them how to do a lot of things, and then showing them how to do a lot of things, they basically messed themselves up by having these people, you know, that letting these people eventually, after you showed them these things, you allowed them to take advantage of you. You see, they was allowed to take advantage of you because you trusted these people. You put your trust in these people. When you put your trust in people like them, when you put your trust in the beast, when you put your trust in the people who are degenerate scum, you know, like, but our people couldn't see that because they was trying to see the good in people, trying to help them and things like that. But like I said, it came back to bite them in the ass. It all came back in. What we going through now is a after effect of what our people allowed to happen. You know, when we allowed them to get off them ships, and where they first came to first, I think somewhere in North Carolina. I forget where they started coming from, in the 16 and 1500s and stuff like that. We should have never allowed them to get off those ships. You see, we should have never allowed these humans to get off these ships. It changed the face of the world, the planet, when they came here into America. It changed the face of the world. And like I said, you still got a lot of people here who don't don't see what's taking place when it comes to our heritage and our history as the ancient Americans, as the Mesoamericans. We should start calling ourselves the Mesoamericans as a collective community of people. We should start doing it because, again, we need to throw the whole Africa thing out the window. The whole Africa thing needs to be thrown out of the window. It needs to be flushed down the toilet. All right, the whole out of Africa thing needs to be flushed down the toilet because it is irrelevant to us. It is irrelevant. It is irrelevant in our heritage and our history and in who we are as a people. It is irrelevant. And we need to just tell people to no longer allow people to lie to us about our heritage and our history. We should not allow people to lie to us about our heritage and history any longer. No. You're going to tell me they had to bring all these people over here fighting with these people getting sick, people throwing up on the ships, people, the disease, getting disease from these Caucasian beasts, all the things going on, all the horrors that's going on to bring these people over here just to pick cotton? Because they don't tell you they did nothing else. All they tell you is the niggas came over here and picked cotton. Y'all really believe that? You brought all these people. Anybody could have did that. You could have got white indentured servants to pick cotton. That's not no hard job. That's not a skilled job. They needed people with skills to run the land. Let me explain to you how the plantation system was really created off of black people. The plantation system was basically patches of land, huge patches of farmland that can grow anything, that can yield cotton, that can yield corn, sweet potato, all that, foods and stuff like apples, all this can yield food because food is the ultimate currency. So, of course, the white people didn't know how to work the land. They didn't know how to grow the crops. Black people did. They know how to get cotton. They know how to grow the land with the seasons in which it grew. So what did they do? Because black people was living on those lands that were plantations before that. So what did they do? They just came there, forced black people to show them how to do it or made black people do it. That's what made them skilled laborers. So what they did was they basically kept using black people to plant and grow the farm. And when they took the land from the black people, of course, took their land from our people, just basically redacted them as the first landholders here, took the land from them, made them work the land, kept farming the land like they've been doing, and the white man just took the money. These Caucasians just took the money, and took the food, took all the yielding and sold it, and that's how they became wealthy. That's how they became rich landowners by taking from us, right? We set the plantation system. The plantation is nothing but a place where things are planted and grown. Cotton, food, all kinds of things. And we knew how to work with the animals. That's what makes the land valuable, how fertile it is. The so-called Indians wasn't made slaves because they didn't know how to work the land. They did not. That's a lie. Because where the Indian farmers at? Where the Indian farmers at? They didn't know how to work no land. See, the plantations, like, we're not talking about, say, maybe like ranches, even with ranches. We know how to work with horses. We know how to work with all of them because these are all things that was all in ancient America. Horses, all this stuff goes back thousands of years. Our people been doing this. So we were already skilled labor. We already knew how to do things. That's what made us valuable. And how they got our people to forget about this heritage is when bronze women and bronze men, when we had children, when they took they would take our children and sell them off. The whole point of taking our children and selling them off is that we couldn't teach our children nothing. So whatever the white man taught, or whatever he sent them out there to teach our people, that's what we believed. You see, they told us we come from Africa, we come from, that's what we believed. Or you were just born on the plantation, you was born here and you was belong. That's the thing. They ain't gonna tell you where you came from because they wasn't gonna let you raise your children because then you would teach them the truth. You would teach them things. They didn't want. That's why they took the children and split them all up. They kept the fathers away from the children. You could only have sex with the woman and get her pregnant, and then you got to go someplace. They would sell him off. So then and they would take the children when they didn't need to suckle at the mother breast no more. Just sell them off. These people were a bunch of fucking demons, man. They were straight demonic. And I'm gonna be honest with you, how you niggas can have any love for these humans today, these Caucasians, man? I don't know, man. I just don't know, because they all benefit from that system, all of them. When they say, oh, we benefit from the system, you damn right we supposed to benefit from the system of slavery. You damn right. It's our system. You damn right we supposed to benefit from the system of white supremacy. It's our system. The system of white supremacy came from planting this land. We planted the land first. So again, Tariq Nasheed, I'm going to say it to you, nigga, don't be ashamed that you benefiting from white supremacy. Nigga, we built white supremacy. So why the hell can't we benefit from it? Why the hell can't we make money? This is our land. This is our land. Don't be ashamed when somebody asks you, is you benefit? I'm benefiting from white supremacy. You damn right, because we the ones that started it here. It's based off of us, so we can't make no money off of it. We can't live and raise our family off of it. It didn't start with the white man because, like I said, they came over from Europe, from Ireland, from England, from Scotland. They didn't have shit going on over there. They were starving over there. So you already know once they got over here, they was going to show up and show out. And that's what they did. They got together. Well, we got to take these niggas' land. They offering us. They giving us guns. Our white compatriots giving us guns. We got guns now. We got all this property that's ours. We could force these niggas. They ain't together. They women look good. We gonna take all this shit. That's what they did. That's how America got started. Okay? It got started off with them taking things from us. Their wealth comes from us. All of their wealth comes from us. Raw and uncut. That's where it comes from. So keep that in mind. Okay? That's how slavery really started. I'm giving you the reality of it. And again, you can go and look up things, like I said, the Solomon Northup story tell you that, how they would kidnap black people and put them in slavery. You see, they would just kidnap black people that were here already free and put them in slavery. The slave catchers, I told you before, they didn't just work on the plantations to go and catch runaway slaves. They went out into other cities and brought people back. You see, they would steal people from other cities. And you know what the Caucasians in New York and all, they were just stealing people back. That's what that's what the damn Underground Railroad was about. You know what they wanted? With the Underground Railroad, they wanted black people to come up north and work for them and basically be slaves for them. That's basically what they wanted. They wanted Southern blacks to come up here into the north and work for them and work in these jobs and stuff, because they basically wanted slave labor. And a lot of these, because in other words, they saw all the Caucasians out there down in the South get rich off of free labor, off slave labor, off of the plantation. They seen them get rich. So you know what? The Caucasians in the cities, they were starting up plants and things like that. Plants, again, plantation, plants, right? Plants. They were starting up plants and whatnot, doing things, and they wanted cheap labor. They were starting up garment industries and centers, and they wanted free, not free labor. They was paying niggas something, but next to nothing. But they wanted that slave type of labor, cheap labor. So who was the first cheap labor? It was our people. That's what the Underground Railroad was about bringing black people up north and all this other stuff. They just brought them up here to be slaves up here. That's all Harriet Tubman did. She was a change agent. That's all. You see? That's all that was. Pay attention to this, man, because, again, they don't tell you the real story. Do that now. I'm showing you the plantations and what I explained to you, because they showed you clearly that black people worked on building. They built the White House. You so-called black people built the White House. They built the plantations. They built the slave quarters. They made black men do that. Now, who taught them how to do that? Who taught them how to build and carpenter and do that carpentry work? Who taught them how to do that? Obviously, it wasn't the white man who taught them how to do that, because he wasn't even teaching you how to read, much less do carpentry work. You can't, again, that's an apprenticeship job. They didn't know how to do no carpentry work. You see? You see the white man, most of them was living in damn log cabins. They was living in cabins. You talking about when you start seeing brick and brick masonry and all this stuff, they wasn't doing all that. They wasn't doing all that bricks and mortar and stuff like that. They wasn't doing all that. Most of that stuff you see in Europe and stuff like that, the Moors built that. They didn't, like I said, or they learned from them. So it was a big thing to be able to do or have that kind of work. You see, the slaves The slaves were, how you want to say, the slaves were skilled labor. That's what makes slaves valuable. Not that they could pick cotton. They're skilled labor. They don't want to tell you that. We just got you to pick cotton. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. I proved to you before. The slaves George Washington owned were skilled slaves. They were skilled labor. They knew how to do stuff. You see, you had slaves that knew how to do blacksmithing. They knew how to make guns. You had slaves that knew how to blacksmith. But that wasn't nothing they had to learn from the white man, because obviously they was making weapons. They would make spears and arrows and things like that. So they learned how to blacksmith, and they was using metal, and they was smelting things and iron and stuff like that. They did that. You see, you got people that have been here for thousands of years. You don't think they know how to build stuff? They don't know how to farm the land. They just ignorant people? No. And the white man admits that there were the copper-colored races here, the copper-colored tribes here, tribes. Now, again, if they were talking about the American Indian, the so-called American Mongoloid Indian, they would have just said that. They would have just called them the red men, the red Indians and whatnot, or the so-called red Indians. They would have just called them that. They didn't call them that because that's not who the people were they were making reference to. They were making reference to our people as the copper-colored races, because we are the only copper-colored people here. We're the only ones that got sheen or shine to our skin like a copper penny. That sheen, that shine is the elements in our skin. That's how that's the description they gave of our people, the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary. That's how you know. You see, again, slaves were skilled labor. Don't let them sit up here and tell you that lie that, oh, they was picking cotton and all that. Again, anybody can do that. Anybody can pick cotton. You can get little kids to do that. What made them valuable is that they had skills. And if you look at it, and they tell on themselves, you look at a lot of them old slave movies, they'll be like, oh, they'll have the slaves up on the damn, they'll have the slaves up on the auction block. Oh, this slave here, he's 28 years old, and he's a skilled carpenter, a blacksmith. He's do this, he'll do that. Where he learn them skills from? Oh, here we got this woman up here, this Negro woman up here. She's 15, 16 years old. She's a skilled seamstress, and she knows how to do it. She knows how to do it. Yeah. Where she learned that at? The white people wasn't teaching you nothing. They wasn't teaching you nothing. They used you as skilled labor, and they would hire you out as skilled labor. Again, they admitted they hired their slaves out. What are you doing, hiring out cotton pickers? No, you hiring out skilled laborers, people who could do carpentry work, people that can do brick work, people that can do farm work and things like that, grow crops and know how to work the land. That's who they hired out, because they didn't know how to do shit until the slaves showed them how to do it. They really straight took advantage of our people. But like I said, what comes around goes around. What comes around goes around. And like I said, our people at one point in time, we did the humans dirty back in the ancient days. We had them basically doing what they did to us. But like I said, it was righteous because they're part of the creation. And like I said, we didn't even, continue, or we should have continued doing what we doing, and more of a humane thing, because again, the whole thing of humanity was just basically us as the Amen being more kind to the humans. But we went overboard. And this is why we in the predicament we in right now. We went overboard because you had a contingency of niggas who wanted to be too kind to the humans, wanted to start laying with them, starting to feel sorry for them. And you see where it got us. Now we done lost. Now we are trying to regain our ancient American history and our ancient American status as the Mesoamerican people, and get rid of this whole black African false identity that was thrown upon us.